Hi, I'm Alvina Ling,
And I'm Grace Lynn.
and we're book friends.
Forever!
We're childhood friends,
Who grew up to be
a children's book editor.
and an author and illustrator. Yay!
Welcome to Book Friends Forever. This is the Hidden Beliefs and Names episode.
And check out our website, bookfriendsforever.com, and our Instagram handle at bookfriendsforever_podcast. Alvina, how have you been?
Oh, I feel kind of tired today. We're recording on a Friday, which is different, a Friday late afternoon. And I just feel like it's been a really long, busy week. So I'm very excited that it's the weekend, although I have to finish and edit this weekend. But yeah, part of why it was so busy is I did go to the US Book Show, which is,
Oh,
I think it's the sixth year they said it was going, or maybe it's, I don't know. It's run by Publishers Weekly and it's for the industry. And we've had editors go in the past. I've just always felt way too busy to go. And I think this year, because I'm in my new role and I felt so they had asked who wanted to go like a couple months ago, and I felt very free and open. And so I said I'll go. And then when the week came, I thought, oh my gosh, do I have time to go? But so I just went in the morning one day. So it wasn't that much time, but it still just felt like, it was just time away from my desk. But it was nice. Like I think I would go again. I went for the CEO panel. So it was David Shelley, Madeline McIntosh, is that her name? She's authors. Oh gosh. She used to be the CEO of PRH and now she's head of the small company called it's authors something. She started it with some other kind of traditional publishing people, but it's supposed to have a different model where it's more of a profit share with authors. Um, and then Dominique, and I'm blanking on her last name, who's the CEO of Sourcebooks. So they were on the panel and they talked about AI and then they talked about DEI and it was interesting. And then the part of
what
the
did they
reason
say? Was there something, any nugget from either of those DEI or AI things?
so AI, Dominique was saying that they are very much using it at source books, but that there are some like things that she would never use it for. And so the moderator asked, what are some of those things? And she said, covers, never use it for covers. She said, I would never use it for translation. But she said, every CEO in publishing is probably coming up with their own list of things. David Shelley said what I knew, what he's told us is that he sees a differentiation between operational and creative, and he doesn't see using AI in the creative side, but yes, on the operational side. But they all said that their number one priority is protecting authors and protecting copyright, and they said it would be very hypocritical because they're suing Meta, for example, they're suing Anthropic, they're suing AI companies for stealing our copyrighted works. And if they would just turn around and then use it, that just doesn't make sense. So, which is how I think all of us or most of us feel in publishing. So that was interesting. Um, and then DEI, again, David Shelley, which I have talked about on this podcast too, early on when the Trump administration started cracking down against DEI, David Shelley made it very clear, like he said, over my dead body. He said, I have to be careful about how I word this, but what I feel very strongly about is that it is a business. There is a business reason, and there is a lot of research that shows that the more diverse your staff is, the more diverse the content is, the higher the profit. So he said, I am doubling down on it from a business standpoint. And so I feel very confident that I can defend that decision if I were to be served papers about,
Mhm.
against it. But, it's a corporation. He said, I feel like the government, if they want a healthy capitalist society, he just feels like he has an argument to make. So he was very confident in that. Um, and the Sourcebooks CEO mentioned that for them, because they're not based in New York, and they also have a lot of people, fully remote, that has helped them in terms of, say, hiring diverse staff. So yeah, those were some of the takeaways. And then Megan was on a panel about raising readers. And that was great. There was a librarian from the New York Public Library, there was someone from NCTE, and there was another publisher, and we talked about some of the things that are coming down the pike for raising readers. And then I went to an Overdrive little seminar, and that was interesting because there was a lot of stats. Like, for example, do you know what the most read public domain book last year was?
Good question. Let me guess. Domain, public domain. Wuthering
Do,
Heights.
do, do. Yes, because of the movie. Good job.
Yes, that's what I thought.
And then the most read, and this is from Libby, the Libby app, the most read author, the most read to completion author.
Oh, to completion
Yes,
author.
because they can track, if people
Oh,
finish the
would it be
books.
Jane Austen then? I don't know.
Oh, not public domain. This is just,
Oh,
yeah.
to finish, Rachel Reed.
It was Jeff Kinney.
Oh, okay,
Jeff
that makes sense.
Kinney, he said, has like 6 out of the top 10
Oh,
titles.
that's sweet.
And then the most read author from last month was also
Andrew Weir. Oh,
no,
okay.
it was Dave Pilkey.
Oh, that's
So
nice.
it was nice that children's
Yeah, that's nice.
books
It's
were
children's.
dominating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. I was trying to think of the hot like adult books because I was like Andrew Weir,
Yeah, I'm sure he's
Rachel
up.
Weir.
I'm sure he's up there.
Yeah, but
Um,
that's so nice that it's
yeah.
two children's
Yeah,
authors.
it is. And even Wuthering Heights, I feel like a lot of publishers released like YA editions of
Yeah.
Wuthering Heights last year.
Hmm.
So, um, yeah, other than that, I last weekend, I think I mentioned Nancy Mercado throws these dance parties like throughout the year. And so I went to one on Saturday night. Stephen and I went, and it was really fun just to dance and, you know,
Aw.
it's funny because I was thinking about when we talked about like what is something that's a big part of your life that, you'd be surprised about. And I think I don't know if I mentioned dancing, but I do feel like I just remember feeling so awkward and uncomfortable dancing and now I just love it. So anyway, how are you?
Good. Did I talk about the RISD reunion
You did
already? I
say
can't.
you were going.
Okay, but I didn't say what happened. Okay,
No,
so
and I think I saw an Anna post that the craft
yeah.
fair was canceled, right?
Yeah, it was actually kind of a bust because the weather was really, really bad. So, my friend Rich was going to the reunion, and he's coming all the way from Charlottesville, Virginia. So,
Mm.
so I said, okay, I'll meet you there. We'll have lunch. Um, but we're like halfway there when I got the message that the craft show was canceled, which is a real bummer because that's actually kind of like the whole reason why
Yeah.
like it's so
It's
much
like
fun.
the
And
highlight.
there were so many other people there that I had been planning to see that were at the like Aaron Meshon was gonna be at the craft fair and like in so uh so I went anyway because Rich was there, but it was a really small group, like maybe like 15, 20 people maybe, and like all I only really knew Rich, and I kind of knew one other woman but not really, and like I'm pretty sure that most people because of the weather just didn't come, so
Did Anna go
no, Anna
ultimately?
didn't go
Oh,
because
okay.
because the craft fair was
Yeah.
canceled, so they all turned around. So, yeah, so it was kind of a bust, but it was really nice to see my friend Rich. And he came. He's kind of touring the East Coast a bit. I think he had his parents passed away, and so he's like kind of like on a what you call it, just a vacation a bit, like
Okay.
because
Just
I
need to
think it
get
was a
away.
little, yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was like a little stress. I think it was a stressful stressful passing, unfortunately. I think the father had dementia and things. So
Mm.
I think he needed some time. So he's been traveling around. So actually came he actually came over here to see the Eric Carle Museum, and we went out to dinner again, and that was super fun. And now I think he's off to see the Brandywine Museum. So that was really nice to see an old friend like that. And today, actually, I just got back from a school visit in Great Barrington, and that is where Aaron Meshon lives. So
Oh yeah.
I had lunch with him after all, and got to see him after all, and that was really fun. And I saw he's got a store out there. It's an artist collective, like him and a bunch of other not authors, a bunch of other artists have this kind of artist collective store. And so, like there's a jewelry maker, there's somebody who makes hats, like and it was such a great, cute, like it's a big store actually, so cute maybe not the right word, but it's such a cool place. And I was so like, wow, this is so neat. And it
Mm.
kind of reminded me how I wanted to do the dish towels. And I actually have the dish towels all ready to go. It's just I just haven't been able to push like buy. Like there's something in
Hmm.
me that's just like, do I really want to spend the money on like 1,000 dish towels? Am I really gonna be able to send, like in like is this really a venture I need to do or want to, like it's like and it's funny because I have everything all set to go. It's just pushing the button on it. So but seeing his
I
store
think
as
you should. Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of an experiment, and it could.
yeah.
I mean, it
Yeah.
could. I mean, I feel like the worst. I think you'll at the worst cases you'll break even, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it is. I actually think that's probably I talked to Alex about it. He's like, if you go in as it's kind of a lark, like the way I did the calendars, it's just for fun, like you won't lose. And I was like, I know. It's just trying to figure out
Yeah. Just think about it as an experiment.
yeah, experiment. So so I might do that. Yeah, so still thinking about it. Let's see. I got my hair cut that you can't really tell because I
Oh, nice.
bangs, got my bangs cut. And
Looks
yeah,
nice.
and Hazel had her chorus concert last night, her last chorus concert of middle school. And
Wow. That's a big deal.
next year she's in high school.
That
So
is
like this is really
wild.
the end.
What songs do they sing? Do they sing pop
They
songs or do they sing classical songs?
they sing California Dreamin'.
Okay, that's a nice one.
I hear something weird. I don't know what's going on. Maybe that was outside. It was like a very
California
strange,
dreaming.
strange sounds going on.
Hmm.
But yes, they sang California Dreamin' and Let the River Run or something like that.
Let the river
Yes.
run. Oh, I love that song. I always think about that's from Working Girl. I think it's from Working Girl.
Yes, yes, it was
Yes.
from Working Girl.
Mhm.
They said that. And I remember
They're
me and Alex were like, "Do you remember that movie?" And we're like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh, that's before Melanie Griffith got all that plastic surgery."
I love that movie.
And
It's
I was
yeah,
like,
I still love that
that's,
movie.
and I was like, she was so cute in that movie. Like, it's so interesting how we see ourselves. I think about it myself. I see all these old pictures of myself, and I'm like, oh, I was so cute then. Like, and it's so
Yeah.
funny because when I see these old pictures, I also remember like thinking how ugly and unattractive I felt back then. Like I
Hmm.
that and this picture, I remember thinking I look so fat, and now I look at it now, I'm like, I'm so cute. Anyway,
Yeah, I
it's
know.
so
I feel
weird.
like every now and then someone will post that about that. Like someone who's in
Yeah.
their middle age or older will
Yeah.
say, just, to the young people, like, just know, like,
Yeah.
you'll
You're
look
so
back at
cute and
yourself
beautiful
and,
now.
yeah, I know. Yes. So, there was a special guest on, Shawn Achor, who wrote the book Hidden Beliefs.
All right. So I listened to this. No, I'm really bad at introducing. So, the idea is that the hidden beliefs you have can affect and shape your outcomes, and that there are all these things that you don't even notice that affect your outcome. So, and how do they affect your outcome? It's by many, many different ways. Okay, one thing is that your hidden beliefs can kind of allocate where you put your attention, and it can also make you believe what matters and what doesn't matter. So if you believe the big example they give is like the news cycle, right? So if you watch the news or you listen to the news or you scroll the news, which is what we all do, the belief that you start having, and I have this all the time, is like there's nothing I can do. Like you
Hmm.
just see all this bad news. It's like nothing I do matters. Nothing I do changes anything. And and the more and more you kind of scroll or look at the news, and the more and more you start thinking this and believing it, all of a sudden it affects not just how you feel about the news, but about everything. And that kind of affects what you do. So that's one example. I
And
think,
yes, and so I think what he said, I guess the first core belief that he said you should cultivate is you should cultivate your own mattering.
yes.
I mean, he probably put it in a better way, but where you can create your own beliefs. I mean,
Yes.
you can decide what matters.
Yes. Yeah, he
Yes.
said like I the one thing I thought was really interesting was he was talking about how people who answer suicide who are on the answering side of suicide prevention
Hmm.
calls, they are trained to make sure that the person who's calling feels like they matter. Like it's just like that was the number one thing. Like, it's so great that you called. I'm so happy I'm so happy you called. You are so brave for calling. Like all these things just to be like your existence is really important to me it's for you to talk to me. Like it was all these things to reinforce the fact that their existence matters, and like because if you don't believe your existence matters, then
Yeah,
then you
then it
won't want to do
doesn't.
anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact if you don't believe anything you do will make a difference, then you don't do anything to make a difference. This is actually ties into that book we read, or I read a long time ago, where they talked about cynicism, the practical
Mm,
optimist, or the
yeah.
hope for cynics. That was it.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And he was saying how the most toxic thing is to become of becoming a cynic is that it makes you just believe everything is crap. So why even bother trying? And then nothing gets changed and things get worse. So I think this is about the same thing, the mattering.
Right. And I think you had said, oh gosh, is it from, oh, our superpowers? And you had said one of your superpowers was,
I feel like my superpower is having a lot of ideas.
well, but first you said it was, oh God, it
Tying up
was,
loose ends.
no, it was from Hidden Brain. I mean, it wasn't from Hidden Brain, but
Actually, I actually thought of a new superpower, one of your new superpowers the other day when I was going for a run. And for some reason, I was thinking of our superpower episode, and I was thinking about how one of your superpowers that we didn't mention was that I feel like you always accept people for who they are.
Mhm.
And I think that it seems like a weird superpower, but I think it really is because there's so many people who are friends with people, or I don't know, friends with people, are with people because of who they want them to be and not
Mhm.
who they really are right at that moment. And I feel like you have always just accepted people for who they are right at that moment. Friends, relationships, all those things. And I think that's a real
Oh,
superpower.
well, actually, that does tie into what I was thinking is you had said radical acceptance.
Oh, okay.
And I think that is kind of similar to this number, the kind of the first hidden or hidden belief or,
Yeah.
because that is I think that is one of the things that he says that you should cultivate.
Yes.
Um, some of the other ones, let's see, I lost my notes.
The one
So
I real oh,
oh yeah, I was going to
the
say
one
gratitude, importance of
yes.
gratitude, which of course we know,
Yeah, we
we
talk
know
about that.
well.
In some ways it almost becomes cliche.
Hmm. Yep.
Um, I know the other one that I have put a note down was like the belief that you have something to give. And I think that's the idea. He says this is a belief that I have something to give versus I have nothing to give, and shift from the taking mindset to the giving one. Um, and I I think that's a really important one. I think about that a lot terms of the children's book community because it's that idea of abundance and the idea of like someone else's success doesn't take away from mine. It only, if anything, it just makes, you know, all of children's literature better. It just makes things, it'll just make my success even better someday.
Hmm.
So, but it's a very difficult mind shift. It seems like it should be easy, but I feel like it's a mind shift that I've been working on for 50 years now. And I feel like I really made progress, which I feel really proud of. I'm gonna give myself a gold star. But at the same time, like it's a process, like when things
Hmm.
happen. Um, and you're like, okay, like you have to process that, like, no, the idea of abundance. And it's very different because I think we're all kind of in that scarcity mindset.
Hmm.
But though
Another belief is connection, which we've also talked about. Um,
Yeah, this is the one I actually told Hazel about because I think I listened to the episode and I told her how I think they did this experiment where they had this hill or this rock wall or something like that, and they had a person climb the hill by themselves, and then they rated how difficult it was, and then a week later they had the person climb the hill with a bunch of people
mhm.
and rate how difficult it was. And they always found out that when they rated it with people, the hill was much much easier. And they said this, like, how do you rate this hill? Like, out of five. Like by themselves, it was like a five, but with other people, it was like a three. So. Um, and I always thought that was interesting. And they didn't really explain how they did that experience. I was like, experiment, because I was like, if it was a hill, they would know it's the same. So I'm thinking it must be like a rock wall or something that the story I wrote in my head, it was like some kind of rock wall. They're like, this rock wall is difficult. So I don't know. But they
Did
said it was
they,
the same steepness.
yeah, did they ask them how it felt as opposed to how it actually, I don't know, like,
So I think it's like they had them climb a wall or do something that was steep. Okay.
mhm.
They had them climb or walk a hill that was of a certain steepness, and they had them rate how difficult it was. And
Okay.
then they did that same rock wall, the same
Yeah.
steepness, same conditions, but this time with like four friends,
Yeah.
and had them all rate it. And it was at like a three. So,
Yeah. Which
um,
I do. Yeah. I mean, I feel like any of us who have, say, I mean, I've run half marathons by myself and then I've run half marathons with friends, and it does feel so much easier when you're running
yes.
with someone. But I
Yeah.
know it's the same distance and,
Yes.
yeah. Um,
So they're saying how that this connection is so important because it's your hidden belief, right? You believe
mhm.
that it's easier that you and you don't real, but even when it's not, and like that's really
Yeah.
what's important. What you think it's more important that you think it's
Yeah.
easier.
Well, it's kind of like I think they talked about people who think that they're lucky versus people who think they're
Mm,
unlucky.
hmm.
And that really, it's the placebo effect. They talk about the placebo effect as well, where, you know, I mean, and this is, I used to say, remember we had those notebooks where my mom used to say, if it is to be, it is up to me.
Yeah.
But if
So
you believe,
though the luckiness, I like that experiment too. This is the experiment I also told Hazel about. The luckiness one, that was more about what you put your attention to. So
mm,
the people believed that they were lucky. So they gave them these experiments where it's like, here's a newspaper, and the word hippopotamus is in this article 10 times. Find them all, circle all 10, and if you find all 10, we'll give you $75 at the end, right? And so the people who and before you start, do you consider yourself lucky or unlucky, right? And so the people who consider themselves lucky did it, and the people who consider themselves unlucky. And the experiment was kind of a trick because in the middle of the article, there's a big in bold, like a big sentence says, "Stop the experiment. If you stop the experiment right now, we will give you $200." So
mm,
stop right now. And so every person who had said they were lucky saw that, read that, stopped the experiment, and got their $200. But people who did not think they were lucky just kept going and just found all 10 hippopotamuses and just got their 75. So it was kind of like those who felt they were lucky were more open to other possibilities. So I thought that was interesting.
that is interesting. That is a hidden belief.
Hmm.
Um, Some of the other ones are, feeling like your work is meaningful, which I feel like we've talked about before as well, but I do think if you feel like what you're doing makes a difference, then you will have a more, uh, I don't know, happy life, I guess.
Well, our last episode, we were talking about those personality tests. So I
Mm.
finally took a personality
Oh,
test where I could get my thing.
the Enneagram?
Yes, the Enneagram without having to pay. And I found out that I am an INFJ, which I guess is kind of rare, they said, and it's the advocate. And I guess the big thing about that is that I have to find meaning. It says I have to find meaning
Mm.
in everything I do. And even if there's no meaning in it, I'll make meaning up for it.
Yeah, which is good. So you have these hidden beliefs. So that's
Yes.
not the
So,
Enneagram, that's the Myers-Briggs
oh,
that you
Myers-Briggs,
took.
sorry.
Yes. Um, Interesting. Yes. I
And
mean, so I
so,
think it's important to find meaning
yeah.
in what you do. And, I mean, I think that's people who are depressed oftentimes just because they just
And I think that's
don't
true
have meaning.
because like for me, like when I'm working, like even when I'm drawing or um I'm doing a composition. Oh, the perfect example is when I did the Children's Book Week poster. I'm doing the composition. I was like, the meaning of this composition is because of the Chinese banners and because of the protection. Like, it's all these things that like nobody cares,
Yeah.
but I care, and because I wanted to put that meaning in. So like that's
Yeah.
the perfect example. Like even though maybe there's no meaning in it for anyone else, but I'll put the meaning in for myself. So
Yeah.
like, so I guess I'm the perfect INFJ advocate.
Um, yeah, they said that when you perceive that your work is meaningful, then you're more engaged with the work and then actually your performance also rises. So again, I think all of these are kind of they become self-fulfilling prophecies in a way, I
Yeah.
guess. If you believe something, then the way you I mean, I think it's similar to goal setting. Like if you have a goal in mind, then you your work everything you're doing is working towards that goal.
Okay, so it was interesting because I listened to a different podcast about goal setting and manifesting, and they were saying that people who set a goal and kind of like dream of themselves or kind of dream of themselves achieving that goal or kind of like manifesting it in their mind, they were like way, way less likely to make that goal come true because there was something in your brain that once you manifested, you kind of subconsciously felt like you already did it. So you didn't
Oh,
work as hard to actually make it happen in real life. And I was
wow.
like, oh, that's so interesting.
There is a little bit of feedback because I
Oh,
think you're maybe talking too close to the
oh,
microphone.
sorry.
I just heard a squealing. I was like, ah. Anyway, but I'm sure it's fine. They'll be fine. And what was the last one? It was the last one is that there's something greater than me is the core belief. So let's see. So the belief I framed, so when someone hears me frame it that way, they might be they a lot of people think about religion. Um,
Oh, uh-huh.
but he said that someone might just believe that there's karma or an energy. So I guess a lot of people frame it differently, but it says that from both religious and non-religious academics, they found this to be one of the greatest predictors of human flourishing. A belief that there's something greater than them, their longevity improves dramatically, their happiness levels rise, altruism rises, and all other six beliefs you find being impacted by this final belief is that when that there's something greater than you, you feel like maybe I'm not alone. Maybe my behavior matters. Maybe I matter. I have things to be grateful for, and it shapes what happens next. So,
Hmm.
which is interesting. I mean, I'm not religious. I don't believe in God, but I guess I believe in the greater good. I do believe in the universe. So I don't know. Did this one resonate with you at all? And how do you feel about this?
Um, this one probably resonated the least, but I mean, I still believe, like, I think that it's, it- um, I feel like it ties into that sense of awe, right? Like
Hmm.
that feeling that I think we talked about awe in a different podcast. And I've listened to I think it's Shane, I can't remember his name, but he wrote a book on awe, and I feel like that's more of what they're talking about when I hear that about the idea of like when you feel like the world is so big and you're so small that it gives you a sense of awe of how how uh you know I can't remember how he put it. Just like a sense of awe that the world's a magical place and that it's incredible that I'm here and things like that. So
Right. I think
I can't
that
remember
you
how he
feel
put it.
so small, but then you know that the world is so big.
Yeah.
I don't, yeah.
I guess that's like yeah, I didn't think of that. Honestly, that was like I said, that's the one that I didn't really think about too much.
Yeah.
So
Is there one of these core beliefs that you feel is most natural to you?
I think the meaningful one is most natural to me. The
Hmm.
one that I would like to cultivate more is the lucky one. Like I would like to, well, not lucky, like I would like to cultivate this belief that like yes, I'm lucky because with the idea of it being something that makes you more open to opportunities and other things, like
Hmm.
and making you more open to possibilities.
Hmm.
So that's something that that's the one I'm probably most interested in cultivating.
I guess that, so I remember when I was younger, and I still feel like this today, is when I was younger, I always believed that everything would turn out okay in the end.
Hmm.
And I think that the thing is you don't know when the end is. So I feel like, the end is when I'm dead, and then that's fine because then nothing matters anymore. But I did always feel that way that, if I'm if I'm having heartache, I know that I'll get over it.
Yeah.
If my car breaks down, I know how to, eventually I'll fix it. So maybe that's one of my core beliefs that has stayed with me my whole life is that in the end everything will turn out okay. Is there something that you feel like you say to yourself, you've said to yourself your whole life?
Well, I think, you know, one of the things that I realize is probably not good is like, as we're aging, there's so many hidden beliefs about age,
Hmm.
like that or even body image, like those the body image and age, like being fat, quote, like being old, like in those things being inherently negative as a hidden belief, not even hidden, like an unhidden belief, like out there belief. But then when you're trying to push it away, realizing all these things that are hidden underneath that are still
Hmm.
there, like those are the things that I think I'd like to try to rework.
So these are hidden beliefs that you feel like are negative that you want to undo.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Like where you want to twist it and to be like, I get to grow old.
Get older,
I get
yeah.
to have food that I love
Yeah.
and um
Or yeah, or like even like all bodies are beautiful type of thing. I know it's a
mhm.
cliche thing, like,
Yeah, I
it's
get to have like legs to
that are strong,
yeah.
like
Yeah,
so
no. I guess that is the I feel like that was on a recent episode where we talked about that too, the kind
yeah,
of reframing.
twisting,
Yeah.
reframing. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the
But
gratitude piece, is just being grateful to have this opportunity to be here.
yeah.
What are the other, I guess on the negative side, I don't know if I've talked about this. I've definitely told you about it, but when I was in high school, my high school counselor, who was also my older brother's high school counselor, I remember at one point we were meeting and he was looking at my grades and, I had some B's freshman year and he said, well, I know, we can't all be like Felix.
Oh yeah.
Who's my older brother and who is straight A's, really high SAT score. And I think so that became a hidden belief in a way but it did shape me where I decided, okay, if I can't be so perfect academically, I'm going to be more well-rounded.
Hmm.
And I think that's benefited me actually. Um, that was something to just go back to the US book show, the CEOs, they were talking about the ideal employee. And I can't remember the context, but Madeline was saying when she was at such a big company as PRH, it was really important for people to be specialists. But when you're at a very small company, it's actually more important for people to be generalists and be able to kind of do everything. And I never fully, I mean, I knew that, but I never really, really thought about it. But that kind of makes sense.
Well, I feel like I don't know if it's hidden or not, but there's this belief that's insidious, that's being pushed on us all the time about like AI is the future. Like you have
Yeah,
to, like, if you don't use AI, you're going to be left behind. That's basically the belief that is being pushed on us. And it's so fear-based, right? And it's becoming a hidden belief, right? I don't know.
right.
Like
But
when
as
do
I said at the end of, was it last episode or the episode before, where I just feel like whether people are pushing back against that.
Yeah, I hope so. But
Someone said, we were talking about this at the bookstore, I think it was an agent saying that she feels like there's a big distinction between AI and generative AI. And I think for me, my main pushback is against generative AI because I don't
mm,
want art and text and all of this
mhm.
or therapy or, coming from generative AI. But when it comes to AI, like I did have a Google Home and I ask it to play music or I ask it to, what the weather is. And I think that technically is AI. It's just not generative AI.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Yes, I like Google Maps quite a bit.
yes. Okay, well, so let's shift, I guess, to names. And I can't remember why this came up. I might have been reading something, or maybe it was a podcast where um, it was talking about like how I guess the different impressions that people have of different names. I think I've also been thinking about it when it comes to imprint names, right? It's like,
Mhm.
okay, well, if you pick one name, people will think one thing about it versus, if I had gone with Inkling versus Alvina versus, I don't know,
Yes, it's the
Bookling.
hidden beliefs about names. I think that's really why it ties
Yes.
in really well.
And I think for me, because my name is unusual, and I wouldn't say it's hard to pronounce, but because it's unusual, people pronounce it different ways, and they did spell it wrong, or often I get Alvin because it is a feminine form of Alvin, um, and so I feel like that has had an impact on me. But I also feel like the meaning of my name has had an impact on me because I was told, but yeah, so maybe this is a hidden belief that I've had is I was always told by my parents, oh, we picked your name because we saw it in a book, baby name book, and we really liked the meaning. And the meaning was beloved by all. And so
Oh.
I feel like I had this pressure on me my whole life to be beloved by all, which is a lot of pressure. Um, but yeah, so I'm curious because your name, Grace, is a
Hmm.
word, and
Yes.
do you feel like you were impacted at all by the meaning of your name or
Um,
to be graceful?
you know, I don't think I think maybe I feel like in my teenage years I was like, oh, I I wish I could be more graceful like my name, which I was not. But I also felt like it was a kind of an embarrassing old name. Like my older sister's American name's Beatrice, and my younger sister's American name's Alice. So we were all like, oh, we got these old lady names.
Yeah.
And I remember wishing that, like, why I want to be in like my Chinese name's Pacey, right? Or nickname is Pacey. And I was like, I remember telling people my name's Stacy, like, because I
Oh,
wanted to
yeah.
have like a more like peppy, like, American name.
Hmm.
So I don't know. Maybe that's how the hidden belief was. Like, I felt like this belief of having grace was like this old, stodgy
Mm.
name that didn't really fit in. Another way that I didn't fit in with all the like Jennifers and the Britneys of the class, and how I would kind of yearn to have like a Stacy or
Yeah, I yearn to be Amy,
yeah.
like I always wanted a name though. I was like, okay, like I want to keep the A name, which is interesting because I decided to look for studies and articles about the power of names, and I found this website which seemed legit called Neurolaunch.
Okay.
So that's the it's neurolaunch.com, and it's gray matter matters is their little tagline.
Hmm.
And they had this article about, does your name affect your personality and behavior?
Hmm.
And basically they said yes, yes and no. Yes, but it's more subtle. So but one of the studies talked about how the name letter effect. So people really uh I am drawn to the letter A because that's
Ah,
what my name starts with. And so I think that do you feel like you're drawn to the letter G, would you say?
no, I don't
Okay.
think I'm drawn to letter G.
Let's see. Let me find. I'm skipping around, but they said that people tend to, like hire people more if they have, the same letter name.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How interesting.
Oh, here it is. People in 1985, a Belgian psychologist named Joseph Nutten discovered something odd. People consistently rate the letters in their own name more favorably than other letters.
Oh,
Which is funny.
interesting.
Then there's also something that happens when someone mispronounces your name consistently. And I think
Hmm.
this comes up a lot with, like
Yeah, we
ang,
were talking about this
yeah,
in one of our episodes with Namrata, which I always
namrata.
now Namrata, which I'm always trying
Yes.
to pronounce
I think
correctly.
with namrata, it's because the emphasis is on the first syllable. And I
Uh-huh.
think that's not natural to maybe most Americans. So I think a lot of people say namrata, but it's a namrata. And I notice people mispronounce the imprint Kokila because it's the same
Yeah.
thing. It's supposed to be Kokila, but most people say Kokila anyway. Um,
Yes.
but they said when someone mispronounces your name consistently, the irritation you feel isn't petty. It's a form of identity invalidation. You're not just correcting a phonetic error, you're defending something. It's like you're defending yourself. And they said this is especially pronounced for people whose names sit outside the dominant cultural mainstream. Being repeatedly asked, how do you say that? Or having your name anglicized without permission sends a message, however unintentional, about whose identity gets full social recognition. And so, yeah, they basically connected to it's a recognition of personhood. But they also say that resumes with typically white sounding names like Emily and Greg received about 50% more callbacks than identical resumes with typically black sounding names like Lakeisha and Jamal. So
Hmm.
that's pretty stark. Um,
Yeah. But there's also I think that's is stark. It's also interesting as a author, when you think about character names and like
mm,
uh I was having this conversation with Hazel and she's like, I just think like my friend so and so doesn't look like her name. She looks more like a Clover, not a this. And then she's like,
mhm.
and people say I don't look like a Hazel. They think I look like a June. And I was like, do you look like a June? And I was like, I guess you kind of look like a June. And she's like, and I said, well, I actually think you now that you're like a full grown person, I actually kind of think you look more like a Robin. And she's like, yes, I think I look more like a Robin than a Hazel. I was like, it's very interesting how we were like, yeah. But then I was trying to think about myself and I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't really think I look like a Grace either. Like, um, it's kind of like that scene in Anne of Green Gables where she's talking to Diana, and she was just like, "Oh, the name Lavender is so beautiful," and the character and the person who's named Lavender, she's like, she's so perfect for her name. She's so, graceful and pretty and sweet. Whereas, and Anne says, "But my name, Anne, it just sounds like chores and patchwork." And Diana says, "No, to me." Anne sounds very queenly and noble. And then
Mhm.
I think the person beautifies the name. It's the person that makes the name, not the name making the person. And I thought that was a
That's
really
nice.
interesting way of putting it. So
Yeah. And it's
I also
interesting
don't
because
feel like I look like a
Anne,
Grace.
Anne with an E versus Anne without an E, I think
Yes.
actually makes it difference. And I know Stephen, he's a Stephen with a PH, and he's
Yeah.
very particular, and he kind of feels more of a connection with other Stevens with the PH as opposed to
Yeah.
with the B. Um, oh, this I thought was interesting too. It said, people with unusual names get more second glances, more mispronunciations, more questions, and depending on the context, that can either build a robust sense of individuality or create chronic low-level friction. And I think
Hmm.
that's interesting because it's true with my name. I think people I get asked a lot like, oh, but I am told also that, oh, what a beautiful name, or that's an unusual name, and so in a way it becomes like a conversation starter. And
Conversation stuff.
yeah, there's this, I don't know if you can hear that. There's someone is drilling. Um, and so it's attention, but it's potentially positive attention too.
Yeah.
So depending on how I think you develop, how I have developed as a person, I think I could have been like, oh no, like I'm getting this attention again, or you can see it as a
Hmm.
positive thing. So
It's like, oh, good. Let's
yeah,
talk about this. Yeah,
sorry, the connection was a little
that's
spotty.
true. Whoops.
Is someone on your Wi-Fi, maybe? You keep freezing. Uh-oh.
Huh.
Or is it me?
I think it's me. Hold on. Okay. All right. Am I back?
I think so.
No? Okay.
Yeah, I think that's so.
All right.
Um, oh, I found the name letter effect. It said real and replicated. People, okay, so they had a little summary at the end. They said what research actually supports. So it's the
Okay.
name letter effect. Re People consistently show mild preference for things associated with their own name letters, which can influence minor life decisions over time.
So we should do book titles that have all the most popular name
Yes.
letters.
And then they say pronunciation bias. Names that are harder to pronounce are rated as less trustworthy. Oh, I forgot to read that.
Oh,
Names that are harder to pronounce are rated as less trustworthy and likable in professional contexts, an effect that's
huh,
modest but consistent.
huh,
And then face name resemblance. Preliminary research suggests faces gradually come to resemble name stereotypes, likely through accumulated social feedback. And it said
huh.
interesting but needs larger replication.
Oh, so that's kind of
And
like the character thing I was talking about.
yeah, when someone's like, you look like a Jenny, or
Yeah.
yeah. And then name-based hiring discrimination. The evidence here is strong and large. Ethnically distinctive names face measurable structural disadvantages in hiring, independent of qualifications. And then it says,
Actually,
oh
oh,
yeah, no, go.
well, now when you said that, Allison, I remember when we were looking up Hazel, thinking of names for Hazel, I remember we ran across this article that said, don't give your child a name that like ends with like ly, like Molly or Lolly, or
Oh,
or because it is because when they're older, they are not likely to be like CEOs or leaders of of
ah,
like, companies because
because
people
it's too
think those names,
cutesy, maybe.
yeah, they like those kind of names don't garner
Right.
respect. And so I thought that was really interesting. So like you can give them a nickname, but you when they grow older, they will most likely use their Margaret versus Molly or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, and then it named things that what the research does not support. So one is names as personal destiny. There is no
Oh.
evidence that your name determines your core traits, values, or psychological makeup.
Hmm.
Um, and then unique, there's no research that shows that unique names causes behavioral problems. So that's good.
Unless somebody snaps because their name is pronounced wrong just one too many times.
Yes. Um, Names also do not cause personality changes, and then changing your names doesn't rewire your personality. It can support
Oh,
transitions already in progress, but
okay.
it doesn't initiate them. And
Okay.
then numerology or mystical name effects. No credible scientific support. The psychological effects of names are social and cognitive, not metaphysical.
Darn.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I do think it's interesting how the people, yes, people can choose their own nicknames. I mean, sometimes other people choose your nickname, but sometimes people get to, like for example, I was just thinking, okay, like our CEOs have been David, two Davids, a Michael. We did have a Larry actually. So that was a Y, because his real name was Lawrence, but he went by Larry. But I feel like the Davids didn't go by Davy or even
I don't.
Dave, you know?
Well, I mean, speaking of Larry's, uh, I was having this conversation with Alex about how names, because we just said names are not destiny, but I kind of feel like in some cases names are destiny. So when I went back to my high school reunion, uh, when I like the 10-year high school reunion, and I met one of my fellow classmates, and he told he's like, oh, what are you doing now? And I said, oh, I'm doing children's books. And I'm like, what are you doing now? He's like, oh, I don't want to tell you. And I was like, why? Is it porn? And he's like, yes. And he's like, but he didn't do porn. He wasn't a porn actor, but he actually did the lighting for like the films and for strip clubs and stuff like that. And so I was telling this story to Alex, and he's like, what was his, and like, who was he? What's his name? And I said, his name was Larry Picker. And he's like,
Ah.
he he's like Larry Picker was his name, and he works in he's like that was destiny.
Well, actually, in terms of the, like being drawn to things that will have your name letters, they did
Yeah.
say that if your name is like David or Devin, you're more likely to become a dentist
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
you're more drawn to that, which
Yeah,
makes
so maybe
sense.
that's how
Or a
it
doctor.
yeah, so maybe
So
that's how
picker, porn,
Picker, kind of maybe helped go that
picker, pecker.
yeah.
Anyway.
Tell me about, tell me about. All right, so uh, just a reminder to our listeners, the Tell Me About section is when one of us asks the other about a book that we have worked on, and the other tells kind of like the background story behind it that maybe you don't know about. So, Alvina, will you please tell me about the book A Song for Juneteenth by Zetta Elliott, illustrated by Noah Denman?
Sure, and I should have had a copy, but I don't have one in hand, within reachable distance. I actually don't know if I have one in at my home, maybe just in the office. Okay, but a song for Juneteenth. Actually, so Zetta Elliott wrote this poem back in the summer of 2020 when the Black Lives Matter movements and protests were spreading across the whole world. So she said in her author's note, the past cannot be changed, which means that we must move forward in order to heal. Um, it's basically a poem, and it's a emotional and lyrical picture book. And then Noah's art is really beautiful and breathtaking. She says it's her first painted book. So I guess I think she used a different medium, for her previous books. Um, and it basically is about the importance of Juneteenth, the resilience of Black families, and the power of community. It does not actually ever mention Juneteenth in the text. It's just the title and in the author's note that talks about it, but it's just more about, how I would say it's a very empowering text. Um, and then Noah said, when I took on this project, I knew I wanted to experiment since the language was so vast, emotional, and ultimately quite timeless. Looking back with clearer eyes, I am so grateful to have been able to use my creative imagination for a project that will hopefully empower children for years and years to come. So that is a song for Juneteenth. It came out a couple weeks ago, but I am telling you about this in advance of Juneteenth, which is coming up probably in a couple weeks, I think, when this episode airs. So, and
But
now,
wait,
oh,
okay, wait, okay, got it. Sorry, because I was looking up A Place Inside Me, and
oh,
and I was like, wait, but that's didn't just come out. That when the Calicut. Okay, I see. I was looking up the wrong one, the wrong book.
oh, right.
I was looking up
Oh,
her old.
because, okay, so Zeta, I guess, Alex, if you cut that, or I don't know if
Yeah.
you don't have to cut it, but Zeta and Noah collaborated previously on a book called A Place Inside of Me, a poem to
Yes.
heal the heart, and that won a
Okay.
Caldecott honor. So, yeah,
Yes.
so this is our second collaboration.
Okay. Sorry, because I was looking at the wrong book while you were talking, and I was
Yes.
like, all right.
All right, and so now we'll end as we always do with what we're grateful for. Um, I can start this week.
Why
Oh,
don't you start?
Okay. I forgot to mention, so on Monday, I spoke to a group of Girl Scouts. They were in the ninth and 10th grade, and it was a friend, Beth Adams, who's actually I think she's editorial director at Faith Words or Nashville, the division. And she had asked me if I would speak to her daughter's Girl Scout troop because they're trying to earn I think it's their book novelist bag or writing badge, one of their
Oh,
badges. And
okay.
but she felt like, and she knew that they were fans of some of the books I've edited, and she thought because she's also an editor, but she edits books about Jesus, and she just felt like, these kids are reading a lot of YA. So, I kind of
Uh-huh.
repurposed a talk that I'd given at a college, and it was just four of them, so it was very intimate. And they were so sweet and they asked such great questions. And they're all readers. One of them had read over 40 books already this year. And they read a nice mix of YA and middle grade and adult books. So it was just a really lively, fun discussion. And I had asked some of my colleagues for some book donations and swag to give away. And so they were so excited to get all these free books. So I'm just really grateful to have been around such voracious readers. And Grace, you look frozen. Oh no. Can you hear me? Hello.
Okay.
You were totally frozen. Did you hear me?
I heard one of them read
Had
over 40 books this year.
yes.
Okay, so
Should I start
uh
over or do you want to?
how do you think it was recording you even though
Yeah,
I
I
was
think so.
frozen?
Yeah, I
Okay,
think so.
so
And you
just go
recorded in
where
a nice pose. So you were like, all
Okay,
right,
so
Grace, what are you grateful for?
um let's see, what am I grateful for? Well, I mentioned earlier that it was Hazel's chorus concert, and she did not sing a solo this year. She just said she didn't feel like it, but she was one of the announcers, and it was just so interesting to see all these eighth graders come up on stage. And eighth grade is just such a weird time. All the kids are kind of like arms and legs, and like all these eighth grade girls, um, you know, I remember it so vividly. We're all trying so hard to be grown up and look pretty, like in like wearing these like, maybe grown up outfits that are maybe a little bit too grown up for you, like short, super short dresses and all these things. And I don't want to seem like I'm judging the other girls or anything like that because I completely understand like that's the way. But it was just so interesting to see Hazel who's just not interested in any of that. And it's kind of weird because I remember thinking how I was so interested in all that and I was trying so hard. Um, but like she went on stage and she's like wearing this, not this very like black and white like sweater, like very like she was just not into what the other people were in too. And I really, really admire the fact that she has a lot of like, I guess, for lack of better words, like a lot of self-respect. So she's not really worried about like fitting in with them, with others. And she seems like she's really happy about it. And
Yeah, so she doesn't succumb to peer pressure.
yeah, and I'm really proud. I'm a little like surprised because that's not really how me or Alex remember our middle school years. So the fact that she's not that way, we're kind of both in awe, and we feel kind of proud about that. I have
Hmm,
to admit, like we're both like, hey, I guess we didn't mess her up then.
that's great. Well,
So
I
yeah,
see Alex as kind of an iconoclast and a little bit of a rebel, and so maybe she gets a little
that's
bit of
true.
that.
Maybe that's the adult Alex. So maybe
Right.
she had gotten the adult Alex in her. But I know that both of us in our adolescence were not like that at all. So
Yeah, no,
maybe,
I think it's rare, I think, for
yeah.
yeah, teens. That's great. Well, That was the Hidden Beliefs and Names podcast episode. Thanks for joining us, and thanks to Alex at Pacey Work Studio for editing this podcast. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and tell a friend about it.
And tag us on social media using the hashtag BookFriendsForever, or send us a message via Instagram at BookFriendsForever_podcast, or via our website, BookFriendsForever.com. So I think right now for the website, I'm just asking our helper, our assistant Jessica. She's just gonna post the show notes on the website instead of before she was doing like a whole summary and doing all this work. But right now, I think we're just gonna repost show notes on there, and
Okay, I
uh,
think that's
who
fine.
knows who knows where we go from there.
Yeah.
But anyway, please join our Patreon, and the link is in the show notes.
I'm Alvina
Or
Ling, and you can find me. Wait, did we? Yes, you can find me at Alvina Ling on Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads.
and I'm Grace Lynn, and you can find me at Pacey Lynn on Instagram and Threads, and author Grace Lynn on Facebook.
Have a great week.
And don't forget to read. Bye.
Bye.